Hello. You might be wondering why we are standing outside of a Baroque church, part of the hated modern period. But we're actually here in Prague with your girl to talk about my boy, Jan Milíč of Kroměříže, on whom I wrote my PhD. So this is the dude that I'm officially a doctor of, or whatever. Anyway, my man was a 14th century preacher, and he was a super intense guy, let's put it that way. So he was really all about like personal piety. He was eating an all vegetarian diet, wearing a hair shirt, anything you want, anything you need, he's going to do it. One of his big things that he was trying to do was he was starting a religious community here in the middle of Prague, specifically trying to get what he called converted or repentant sex workers in, though he didn't use sex worker because he wasn't woke. So one of the things that he did here was that he would be preaching in the neighborhood, and all along this was essentially like a red light district initially in the 14th century. And that's because Prague's a big city, like any other big medieval city. They need to have sex workers in order to keep, the unruly lusts of men down, right? Because if a man can't bone, he might just get really violent and start a riot. You never know. So Milíč is kind of like against sex work. He's an abolitionist, and so what he does is he starts offering a place to stay for people who have converted from doing sex work. He's first given one house along this road by a madam whose name was Catherine. She gave him her house, and then more people start donating, and more people start donating, more people who want to leave sex work start showing up. And this gets the attention of my other man, Emperor Charles IV. So Emperor Charles IV, for those who don't know, was one of the Holy Roman Emperors. He lived here in Prague, and his deal was in the 14th century, he was deciding that he was going to make Prague the capital of the Holy Roman Empire. So Prague had always been important. It was a big regional capital, but this was like a whole big project of works where he dumped tons of money into Prague to make it like the biggest, fanciest, most religious city you could have. Part of that was that he decided that he was going to make it bigger. So he constructed an extra 3.5 kilometers of city walls around what was originally the old town wall. And so that enclosed a bunch more space. Fantastic, great, you've got more people can live there. Suddenly Prague is the biggest city in Europe. It's bigger than Paris, it's huge. But this has got like an unexpected sort of a circumstance, which is that suddenly the big brothel that was here, which was called Venice, isn't on the outskirts of the city wall. It's absolutely fine to have a brothel on the outskirts of the city, but if you made a new city wall, suddenly it's right in the middle, and Charles is like, oh man, well what am I going to do about this? And this is where he gets together with Milíč. So he says, okay, I'm abolishing the charter of the brothel, Venice, and I'm going to give the houses to you, Milíč. Milíč is like, hey, thanks, I love it. Renames it Jerusalem, get it? So it's like Venice, the idea is that it's like it's related to things being venereal or things being sexy. Jerusalem, obviously, very religious. So he takes it, he starts this religious house. He has his own chapel here that is to the prostitute saints, which are St. Mary Magdalene, Afra of Augsburg, and Catherine of Alexandria. And he just encourages women from all over the city to come in. Totally works. He's got this weird community of a bunch of like former sex workers and also just dudes who love preaching. They all hang out in there until, in a couple of years they all get accused of heresy and stuff gets wild. Unfortunately, that church isn't extant any longer. We've got this actually quite pretty Baroque thing in its place that was apparently built in the 18th century. But if you're ever in Prague, come on down the street, check it out. Why not think about Milíč and the politics of sex work? Have a nice time.